We're going to dive right into the training at hand, and it happens to be the crucially important topic known universally as lockout-tagout, which could also be defined as the proper control of hazardous energy. I would guess that some of you watching this video have heard this term for years, but never quite knew what it was referring to. I promise you, but by the end of this training, you'll have a very clear understanding of what this simple term known either as LOTO or lockout-tagout is referring to. And for those of you teammates that practice this topic on a daily basis, this training is very much applicable to you as well. Although there are those out there that routinely utilize these procedures, I can attest that there are numerous operators that cut corners and even unintentionally leave certain energy sources active during their procedures. So my point, we all need to be reminded of these life-preserving procedures, especially those of you who work on machines and equipment and have exposures to these types of dangers. With that said, here's what we're going to cover in this training. Number one, why each employee needs this training. Number two, who all is impacted by this topic. And finally, number three, the step-by-step procedures you need to follow when trying to isolate and eliminate the various sources of hazardous energy. I want to kick this section off with a simple definition of energy. It is as follows. Energy is the power derived from the utilization of physical or chemical resources, especially to provide light and heat or to work machines. Now, as with each of these videos, it's my goal to break each topic down into the most simple and usable way, so each trainee can go back to his or her department and feel as though they can practically apply the knowledge they gain here. As it relates to lockout-tagout procedures, any and every form of hazardous energy is precisely what we're trying to eliminate or contain. That being said, those of you who go into the field or the shop are exposed to numerous types of tools, equipment, and machines that utilize various types of energy. Let's run through these different energy sources so you can ensure each one is being addressed in your lockout-tagout procedures. If you aren't 100% certain what type of energy the tool, equipment, or machine uses for various functions, you have no choice but to contact the competent person at your facility, the visited facility, or the manufacturer of the product to identify each of the possible energy sources. We'll talk more on the specific steps you need to take when creating a lockout-tagout procedure, but the following energy sources need to be identified before you ever do any work on equipment. They are electrical, chemical, pneumatic, hydraulic, thermal, and mechanical. If not properly locked, blocked, or released, each of these energy sources can unintentionally start up a piece of equipment, cause a dangerous mechanism to finish its action, or even explode while you or a teammate are working on or near them. This is exactly why each of you needs this training. A key point to remember is you don't have to be the individual working on the equipment to be injured. In fact, the improper implementation of these procedures leads to thousands of injuries and numerous deaths each year in the US workforce alone. Because of the literal blood that's been spilled within these stats, it's important that we discuss who's impacted by the hazards associated with lockout-tagout in the next section. There are two categories of employees that are impacted by these procedures, so pay attention and assess which one best fits you, the position you're in, as well as what job tasks are being asked of you within your department. Starting from the most involved, we have what we call the authorized employee. This means that the only employees who can effectively use this title are those that have been specifically trained on the equipment, machines, or tools they're servicing. Typically, this title is reserved for the maintenance team, field staff, or skilled operators of equipment that may need to periodically work on or maintain certain equipment. Anytime a machine guard is removed, there's going to be contact at a machine's point of operation, or anytime there is even a pinky finger that must enter the danger zone, these lockout-tagout procedures must be done by an authorized team member. A key point to remember is that these authorized individuals have been provided detailed training on every machine they work on. And not only that, they follow every procedure they've learned and have likely helped develop each machine's lockout-tagout requirements. So Authorized means you know exactly what procedures to follow and how to follow them safely and effectively. And only a very small group of personnel should fall into this category. Now, second on the list is literally everyone else not listed as authorized, and we refer to them as affected employees. These are the employees that could come near the tools, equipment, and machinery, but are never allowed to service them or perform tasks such as removing jammed materials, cleaning them, replacing parts, etc. The term affected is actually a perfect word to use because this group of employees have jobs that could potentially put them near machines with hazardous energy, and should something be incorrect with the lockout-tagout procedures, the reality of injuries and death can still very much affect them as well. This is precisely why we all need this training on this very topic, because every person working near a piece of equipment that has any of the hazardous energy listed earlier needs to know how to recognize the lockout, but also why they shouldn't be the ones performing certain work. This may seem like a simple point, but we catch workers consistently trying to assist in situations where they're not qualified to do so. They always have the best intentions, but I promise you, the hazardous energy nor the equipment care about good intentions. The hazards are what they are, and all procedures must be followed very strictly. In this section, I want to address the 4 key components that every employee on your team needs to be implementing when it comes to your lockout-tagout program. And for those of you doing the awkward look around the room right now, like, but we don't have a program, you're in luck. These 4 components will actually pave the way for your program if you apply them. Now, the first thing you must do is conduct an audit of your facility and your operations. During this audit, you should make a note of every piece of machinery that stores hazardous energy. Remember, we're talking about electrical, chemical, pneumatic, hydraulic, thermal, and mechanical energy that needs to be safely released or contained. And to put it very, very simply, the word lock and lockout literally means putting a durable lock on any area where energy could be released or re-energized. Typically, these are breaker boxes, valves, disconnect switches, and other designated areas for lockout-tagout on the machine itself. Now, after you've done this audit to identify the equipment that falls into the program, you need to have a person who's competent on those pieces of equipment. Create a machine-specific lockout-tagout procedure for every machine. So, Jake, we have some machines that are similar but not quite the same. Do I need a lockout-tagout procedure for those specific machines too? The answer is yes. You need a procedure on every machine. This procedure is typically 1 page, and it has pictures of the actual machine, all of the areas that need to be de-energized, and step-by-step instructions on how that process can be done safely. Once these 1-pagers are created, it's a best practice to hang these lockout-tagout instructions on the machine itself so there's no confusion as to what steps need to be implemented. Every time lockout-tagout is required. But please note that if you're not authorized to work on the equipment, these documents and tools don't apply to you. Once these procedures are all completed, the authorized employees need to be trained on the specific steps to take on every piece of equipment, whereas the affected workers only need training, but only on the awareness of when the machines they're working around are locked out and how they need to avoid the hazards and any operation of that equipment until it has been deemed safe to be around again. Again, it may seem ridiculous, but thousands of US workers have lost their lives from having good intentions. Don't settle for the good intentions. Just follow the protocol. The 4th and final piece of this program is you need routine inspections to ensure the lockout-tagout procedures are accurate, up to date, trained on, and any new equipment has been brought under the same umbrella of protective procedures. Please note that it's not just new equipment that requires new training. It's also required when someone switches jobs to a new department and is working with different types of machines. It's also required when the safety control methods change, the equipment has been modified, and when there is a procedural change. Now, in the next section, I'm going to run through the necessary steps an authorized employee must take when starting to lock out a piece of equipment. So this section is important because these are some critical steps that must be followed when a machine needs to be serviced or scenarios where material's been jammed and an employee has to put some part of their body into or too close to the point of operation. That being said, the first thing you need to do is find the lockout-tagout procedure that was written for the machine you're going to be working on. Remember, this written procedure will pinpoint all of the energy sources that need to be released or contained and the safe ways to control them. Field employees, this absolutely applies to those visited customers as well. Now, once you have that procedure, be sure to follow each and every item on that list. Even when you feel as though these certain components don't apply, you must follow every step. There are too many horrific stories of people just like you and I dying because they skipped a few steps. Typically, it's those cases we've all heard 100 times before where they just needed to be in harm's way for a brief moment. They were up against a production demand. They didn't have the right tools in place to lock out all of the energy sources, so they were just going to be extra careful. The problem is, these people likely heard the same stories just like you're hearing in this training right now, and yet they chose to put a piece of equipment over their own lives. Really quick, I want to share a story of a young man named Sean. Sean had started working in a factory right out of high school while employed by a local temp agency. For the next several years, Sean proved his worth at this employer, and they hired him on full-time as an employee. Over the next few years, Sean got married, had his first child, and continued to work hard. Quickly, he was named first shift supervisor, and he was literally living the American dream. One day, just as he was ready to clock out for the weekend, he realized that there was something that was left on in one of the incinerators. He quickly ran in there, knowing he wouldn't be more than 30 seconds or maybe a minute. The second shift supervisor hadn't arrived. He was there by himself and knew he could get in without following the lockout-tagout procedures. What he didn't realize was that the second shift supervisor was there. As he went in to do the quick work, the second shift supervisor fired up the operation while Sean was still in there. Call it bad luck, say it was his time to go, but we know this for certain. Had he followed the lockout-tagout procedures he was trained to do, Sean would still be here with us, with his wife and with his young son. The problem with his story is that it's just one of thousands of similar instances where small steps were left out. I'm here to challenge you, the members of your team, to follow each and every step every single time. No exceptions. I don't want you or your teammate to end up being one of these stories we can share on a training video. Can you promise me that? I hope you will. Okay, let's quickly wrap up the final steps. So we've talked about following the machine-specific protocol, so now it's time to ensure other employees know the area is under lockout-tagout restrictions. Any teammates that are working nearby need to know the equipment is down. Ensure you have a durable lock or guard on whatever energy source you're trying to control, and ensure pressure valves have been released if necessary. The key point to remember here is that each authorized employee must carry their own lock and tag. This way, the lock can only be removed by them, and the tag shows who has locked it out. This will help ensure no one removes the lock unintentionally before the service on the equipment has been completed. Also, if more than one authorized employee is working on equipment, each team member must apply their own lock to each lockout area. This ensures that when one worker finishes, the equipment is still locked out when they're gone, and while the other teammate is still working on it. Once everything has been locked out and the hazardous energy is under control, it's important you test the equipment to ensure it can't be powered back on. Basically put, you're verifying that the power has been turned off. Okay, in the next section and final section, we're going to briefly cover the steps to take after the equipment has been serviced. So, just like most procedures, if we follow them, we do a great job in the beginning, but get a little sloppy when we're wrapping things up. A great example of this is back and lifting safety, which we do have a solid training video on, so check that out. But people will focus a lot of energy on the lift from the ground, but when they go to lower the load, they bow their back and all of the good body mechanics go right out the window. Obviously, this is the wrong thing to do. Well, when it comes to lockout-tagout procedures, this is even more important because there's a lot more on the line than a healthy back. So let's run through a few of the steps you need to take when finishing up a job where lockout-tagout has been applied. The first thing you want to do is ensure there are no tools or pieces of material left anywhere around the points of operation. You also want to make sure that any guards are put back in their designated spots. Next, ensure no other teammates who may have been working on the project with you are working on the equipment anymore. Only after you've confirmed this can you begin to remove your own locks, covers, and tags. Be sure to let the affected workers in the area know that the equipment is back up and running, and after you do that, fire up the energy sources in the exact order they're stated on the procedures. Once everything has been confirmed to work properly and all the guards are in place, you're good to go. So here's the deal. As we wrap up here, I know that there will always be more questions, especially as it relates to the specifics of what you deal with on a day-to-day basis or even on an occasional basis. The good news is you can call us anytime to discuss the specific pieces of equipment you're working with and how to effectively lock out each energy source. As a little help though, I have a common lockout-tagout procedure sheet we use for the machine-specific procedures, and we'll be happy to send that to you. If you find an answer for each applicable blank on the sheet, you're likely doing it right. As always, I genuinely consider it a pleasure to have these conversations with you each training. It's a pleasure because I value your life and the management of your organization values your life as well. We want to do everything we can to set you up for success in the various job functions you're asked to perform. So, that being said, I may not know you personally, but I do care about you greatly. I'm Jake Wolfenden, and my hope is you stay safe and have an awesome day. I look forward to seeing you in the next training.